In the heart of Baghdad, there was once a thriving Jewish community. Today, almost nothing remains. Jack Hikmet was born into that world. He grew up Jewish in Iraq, until it became too dangerous to stay. I travelled to his home to hear the story of his life. Hi,
Hey, hi.
Jack. How you doing?
Okay.
Good to see you.
Nice, welcome.
Thank you very much. I think a lot of people watching this video may not know. What was the Farhud?
Farhud was basically a pogrom that occurred in Baghdad in Shavuot, on the 1st and 2nd of June 1941. The Jews lived quite well, except for certain periods of time where they were attacked. They go through 10 years of well-off living, very comfortable, beautiful friends, Muslim, Christians. Baghdad was very cosmopolitan. I think Jews was about 25%, 30% of Baghdad when the British Army walked in 1917. The big shock came right about in the 30s when the Nazi propaganda and Hitler started filtering into the Middle East, coincided with the formation of the Muslim Brotherhood. We hear a lot about that in Egypt. The rise of the Mufti of Jerusalem, who was one of the nastiest anti-Semitic people around, and Arab nationalism, anti-British nationalism, anti-French, anti-European nationalism. Those three got married under the sponsorship of the Nazis. Money was coming from Nazis. In Baghdad, we had a very Nazi German ambassador called Grupper, Fritz Grupper, and he was the disseminator of all the propaganda. The Mufti of Jerusalem, he ran away to Baghdad. In there, he instigated, together with somebody called Rashid Ali al-Gaylani, he instigated a coup against the British. When the Mufti came, he was instrumental in translating Mein Kampf and serialized in Iraqi newspaper. Two young officers of Rashid Ali al-Gaylani was one guy called Ahmed Hassan al-Bakr, who became eventually the president of Iraq during my time, which is the late 60s, 70s, when they were hanging and killing Jews. He was the president. That's one of the acolytes of Gaylani. The other guy was Khairallah Tanfah, who was also a junior officer in the army. He was the uncle of Saddam Hussein and the foster father, and also his father-in-law, because they're married cousins. Khairallah Tanfah created a pamphlet which is called the Iraqi Mein Kampf. ثلاثة كان الله على الله لا يخلقهم الفرس واليهود والذباب. Three things that Allah shouldn't have created: the Persian, the Jews, and flies. The Jews were a mixture of the filth of the earth with the leftover of all kind of strange people. And the poor fly didn't know why it was created, is confused, and we don't know why God created. So basically, it put the Jews lower than the flies. It was forced education on all Iraqi children. So any refugees, and I'm a refugee as well, don't forget, I respect anybody who run away, escaping problems, but any refugees from that area, from Iraq, Middle East, who are aged between 25 and 50, 53, were forcibly educated with this pamphlet. I'm a product of the Iraqi education system, and I still shake when somebody say Yehudi, Sahyoni. It's what was ingrained into you in how terrible to be Jewish, to be that, but let alone being taught that. So May 41, the Gilani and the officers, all these officers, did a coup d'état. They chucked the British establishment, and the army retreated and ran away to Jordan. Of course, the aim of Hitler, he supported it, and Luftwaffe aircraft from Syria, from French Vichy Syria, came in to bomb British positions as well. Of course, Churchill didn't agree, so he landed an Indian Anglo army in Basra, which is the southern port. The British Expeditionary Force left Jordan, Transjordan, and started coming at Baghdad. The British army, instead of going in straight away, stood outside the gates of Baghdad because there were riots. And these were the Shavuot, Farhud riots and pogroms. So all the disaffected Iraqi soldiers that were pro-Mufti and pro-Gilani, they came and with the instigation of Mufti and his mob, started on the afternoon of Shavuot, on the 1st of June, attacking rich Jewish homes, Jewish districts, and the Jewish and the looting Jewish shops. My father's cousin was pulled out of a car, cut to pieces. My father and my uncle had to pay for his family to leave, to help him leave because they were destitute. They went into homes, they raped women, kidnapped kids, did nasty things to kids, blinded parents in front of their children, showed parents that they were raping women, pregnant women had their bellies cut out. One story I have to tell you that stays with me all my life. Abu Sami was an Iraqi Jew. He was in his 20s. He was coming back. He told me a story. He's very dark featured, tough as nails. He was wearing traditional Arab garb, coming back from work, and he got caught in the middle of the mob. This is the mob. Can you see? They were carrying guns, knives. Policemen took part, and there was a nice audience egging them on and watching them as they were looting and going into and killing into Jewish houses. Now Abu Sami got caught in the middle of that, and they were literally saw people being pulled, Jews being pulled out of buses and being butchered. And he had no choice, best to pretend he was a Muslim because he couldn't recognize him from his features and what have you. And he was going around shouting with them. And he says what stays with him is that in the middle of all the blood-curdling ceremony, he kept hearing the sound of a hajl. Now let me explain to you what hajl. Hajl is a family heirloom that Iraqi Jewish family has. It's a bracelet with little bells on it that a mother that puts on a new baby toddler because she wants to hear when he's moving around what mischief he's getting up to when he's waking up. And poor families made of tin and what have you. Rich families made of pure gold. Okay, and he kept hearing the noise. You recognize, people recognize it from that era of a hajl behind him. He looked around and he sees one guy holding the leg of a toddler with the golden hajl still on it. And he says, as long as I live, and I will be the same, I will keep hearing that noise. This is a hajl. Credit what is due. Lots of Jewish families were saved by their brilliant, beautiful Muslim neighbors and Arab neighbors. For example, my maternal family had a Husseini across the road. Husseini is basically a Shiite mosque. The head of the mosque assured my grandfather that nobody's going to come in, and they let it be known. Their boys came out, and nobody went into that district because they told them they will tear you from limb to limb, if anybody. Lots of families were jumped over. Everybody had flat roofs with little distance between the next Muslim family. Lots of Muslim families took the Jews over the roofs while the house was being looted and protected them. Lots of Muslims stood outside with their guns and protected them. So it wasn't the whole population. It was a certain part that was carried by the nationalist propaganda. And unfortunately, that part of the population did eventually become the majority and in control of the country. The Jews of Iraq, after that, obviously lost all confidence. They started making arrangements to leave. Some people will forever be Iraqis. They stayed. Some people went communist, joined the communist movement in 46, 47 when the Iraqi authorities went after communists. The only people that got arrested and tortured and 2 boys got hanged were the Jewish boys. Everybody else got away with it. But some boys like my cousins joined the Khalutsi movement and Beitar and that kind of thing. The Zionist movement started taking root there. Some of them even tried to walk to the Holy Land. In 47, there was massive riots and killings in Libya, I think in Libya, in Syria, in Yemen, with the establishment of the state of Israel. Word go out there will be another Farhud pogrom. But the Jewish boys stood at the end of every Jewish district with machine guns and guns ready to fight. And when that word came out, the government put an end to any chance of any mischief. However, all Jews were thrown out of their work. They couldn't earn a living. Jewish commerce was restricted. Lots of rights were taken away from us. You couldn't travel. You couldn't have passports. So Jews started escaping to Persia. next door. They managed to sell their stuff. And then when that built to a crescendo, the government, with the negotiations with America and Israel, decided, okay, we will make a law. It's called tasqit, which is the striking of your Iraqi nationality, basically. Anybody is welcome to register, any Jew who wants to leave, and you could leave the next day. But you're only allowed one bag and 10 dinars. Okay, you're not allowed to take all your properties. Everything gets taken from you. The hospitals, the factories, large, massive tracts of lands. I think somebody did an estimate that it's $13 billion that was taken from Iraqi Jewry alone, let alone the rest of the Middle East and North African Jewry. At the beginning, there wasn't many registrations, but 2 to 3 bombs were thrown at Iraqi Jewish cafes and synagogues. One boy was killed, unfortunately. He was a lone boy. His family had tried to have a kid for a long time, and he was killed. The next day, everybody registered. 125,000 people were put on aeroplane. At the time, it went to Cyprus and then landed in Lod in Israel. And then afterwards, it was just going straight. They didn't bother anymore. They were just going straight to Lod. 15,000 stayed. Obviously, my parents stayed. They got married in mid-50s. I was born. But we had a bit of short golden era after the killing of the king. The same officers that carried out the 41 coup d'etat did a coup d'etat on the royal family. Coup after coup, Saddam Hussein and Ahmed Hassan al-Bakr came to power in August 68. Uncle Saul Ridwan, this is him congratulating me on my bar mitzvah, he was arrested. And I remember my mother taking me in early 68 to the prison to get him food. He's in his prison garb, and I was only 10, 11 at the time. He was released briefly. Saddam Hussein and Ahmed Hassan al-Bakr took over, another coup d'etat. So the first thing they did to show their strength, the Iraqi army had a unit in the East Bank, right across the West Bank. Okay, they encouraged them to open artillery fire on Israeli positions in the West Bank. Israel replied straight away. The week after, straight away, Jews started being taken, disappearing, being arrested. Ahmed got up and said they need revenge. I remember his speech, seeing it live on TV. We have found a nest of spies in our midst. And a woman in the group said, "Oh my God, it's us." And the men shut her, "What are you talking about?" It turned out to be us. These are the names. Early 60s, my maternal uncle, Yaakov, married into a family from Basra, that's the southern port, called the Heskel family. And this young boy, Heskel, Saleh Heskel, they call him 20. They had to falsify his age. He was 18. He was in the street, maybe the wrong place, wrong time, randomly arrested. Remember him very well, very nice young man. Next thing we see them on TV, looking very bad. They've been tortured very badly. And it's a kangaroo court, you're spying. One of them had the courage of shouting, "No, no, no, I'm never a spy, I'm an Iraqi." But they've been tortured very badly. Next thing, because of that, it became just radio. They would just put it on the radio. The court proceedings would go on for ages and ages, and my parents mercilessly listened to it. It'll go to 2 o'clock in the morning. And as a child, 12-year-old, 13-year-old, I would hear, I'm hearing it. I'm hearing these guys being questioned, and the so-called defense says they deserve it. The defending lawyer. In the middle of the night, on a Sunday night, I remember, January 1969, we hear the sentence, "You're all going to hang." The next day, there was Air Force planes flying, 7 o'clock in the morning, and there was a call out on the radio, on TV, "The glorious people of Baghdad, please come out to the central square of Baghdad. The spies have been hanged." So, and there he is on TV with a picture there, a jasus, the spy, Hespel, the guy I was kicking a football in our backyard with. There was a massive fuss. It was the end of our life as we know it. We caught, they wouldn't let us out. We were basically hostages, and the chief rabbi's son, Rabbi Sassoon, was taken as a threat against the chief rabbi because he was the one being interviewed by international press And the chief rabbi said, everything all right, we are Iraqi citizens. His son was being tortured inside. He was there. He was the hostage to what his dad says. People still disappeared, including friends of my dad. You know, they tortured them to death. And they were announced, oh, we passed sentence on this guy and he's been executed. And that's it. Come and collect his body. Very restricted, followed everywhere. You couldn't move out of Baghdad. You couldn't do anything. People started disappearing. Every time there was a big disappearance, there was a big fuss here and abroad. They started issuing some passports. My parents got me a passport because a lot of my friends were all of a sudden, it was in secrecy. You'd turn up at school, Jewish school, one day, and two of your friends are not there. And you think, yeah, I know what happened. They've escaped. Okay. They wouldn't even tell you. I started finding that out of a class of 20, we left with five. Okay, five people. And I was going nuts. So my parents decided to get me a passport and get me out to London. And I did. And one of the last things I remember, my uncle, my mentor, he took me aside. He took me to his house and he had a massive library, I remember, of books, English, French, Arabic. And he said, I remember his word. He says, Jack, we the Jews could be 40, 50 million, except for a man called Hitler. And he went through the Holocaust with me. And he pulled a book out of his library, and it was the diary of Anne Frank. Imagine, in Baghdad, with the threat of death, it was a courage. He had that book. I mean, any house could be raided any minute. You were very, very afraid of the knock on the door. Total paranoia. You in the middle of the night, you'll hear machine guns, and you wake up in the morning, you'll see a body. I came to London, but my parents stayed. My dad had opened another business yet again. After things calmed down, they took his license again. Immediately after the 67 war, we didn't have a source of income for 3 or 4 years. Uncle Saul, who came to our house literally every day, September 72, he was living with his brother. The brother had sent his family to Israel in 51. He hadn't seen them for 20 years. Uncle Saul wasn't married, and the two of them lived in the same house. He came to my mother. He says, I can't find my brother. He just left me a piece of paper. They took me for questioning, and I'm going to come back. So my mother said to him, stay here the night, and then tomorrow just go and see if he returns. Okay, please don't go back to your house. So he stayed with them. And I was in London, but my brothers, my two brothers and sisters, and my mum and dad were in Baghdad. So I stayed with them the night. The next morning, he said, look, I need to go and shave and see if my brother let me go back to the house. My young brother, who was 8, and my younger sister, who was 5, loved him to bits, and he always spoiled them when he took them to his house with chocolates and what have you. Please, uncle, please, we must come with you. So they went with him. Within 5 minutes, there was a knock on the door. This is what we got from my brother. And it was them. It was the security services. Please come with us. We've got a few questions for you. He had the courage to say to them, otherwise I would have lost my brother and my sister. Look, these are children. Please let them go. And it was hot. And because they've taken their shoes off already, they ran home on their own without the shoes. And they were the last people to see him alive. We gathered they killed him more or less immediately. My parents managed to get passports, eventually came out with nothing. Kibbutz Be'eri was co-founded by Iraqi Jews. And you know, Be'eri got one of the kibbutzim of 10/7, Yaakov Tzimach. And Yaakov Tzimach made it his job that every Shavuot, he tells his family, his son and his grandchildren, the story of the Farhud and what was done to us. And now he's crying, his son is crying because the grandson was killed in the kibbutz, defending the kibbutz on 10/7. Shlomo Mansour is another guy. Shlomo Mansour would have been a toddler, would have been 2 or 3 during the Farhud. And as you know, he was kidnapped and killed in Gaza. They returned the body. So what relevance is all of this? What impression this left on me? We started talking about running away again, now the things that are happening. Maybe my antenna is much more sensitive than people who are born here, than Jews born here, Wabi, because of what happened to me.
As in, you're talking about running away from London?
Yeah,
From London.
Yeah,
Now,
from yeah.
a lot of people are going to find this really interesting. I think that you said a lot that very tragic, very poignant, especially when you consider what's going on today, and especially when you consider the 7th of October. So I just want to thank you very much for telling us your story.